Today on the Sports Zone Unscripted, we take a look at Liberty football against Troy University. Week 2 of the 2021 college football season went to the Liberty Flames in a 21-13 win against Troy. The debut of Flames Notes coming your way. We also have breaking news as we welcome back college football. Week 2 of college football was all about defense. My recap on all games on Saturday. Also, fans back. Mixed reaction all over the sports world, from praise as well as condemnation. Could the college football season be the new COVID hotspot waiting to happen? A story from CNN sheds light on that very interesting conversation. Also, the NFL season is in its week 2 of the longest NFL season ever, that being 18 weeks in the regular season. My recap of week 1 and of last night's Thursday night football game, where the football team led by former ODU quarterback Taylor Heineke led the Washington football team to a benevolent victory, as well as predictions for the rest of week 2 coming up. And we have a major development in the group of 5 as we find out that the Big 12 is poaching the group of 5. We found out last Friday that the Big 12 presidents and chancellors voted on Friday to accept BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF into the conference. My reaction and predictions on who will become a part of the American later in the show. And of course, we take a look at Kyle Larson's redemption. Nascar and Kyle Larson specifically are in playoffs. My reaction to Richmond under the lights in the playoffs, and a story by ESPN talking about Larson's redemption on and off the track, as well as breaking news of the Nascar 2022 season schedule being released, where we find a new short track at the first venue of the Super Bowl. And finally, we take a look at an FCS team, not an FBS team, an FCS team beating a ranked FBS team on the debut of the playlist. There is a look at Missoula, Montana, and a look at the University of Montana, the site of a historic day as an FCS team quickly broke the barrier, the long-standing barrier, between FBS and FCS. We get more into that on the debut of the playlist, as well as some major news stories coming up on this historic day. Welcome to the Sports Zone Unscripted. Of course, I'm David Henshaw. We have major news involving college football and NASCAR, so we begin with our opening statement, one of which that I really don't want to give, but unfortunately I have no choice. As we move on to breaking news from yesterday, as our opening statement, 4 U.S. gymnasts testified before Congress. U.S. gymnasts, current and former, appeared before Congress on Wednesday morning to recount their encounters with disgraced Team USA Dr. Larry Nasser. Gymnasts Simone Biles and Allie Reisman giving significantly impactful statements. This story from America's Olympic Network, NBC, sheds light on the testimony. Olympic gold medalist Simone Biles told Congress during an emotional testimony on Wednesday that the FBI turned a blind eye as hundreds of athletes were abused by Larry Nasser, the disgraced former USA Gymnastics team doctor. Biles remarking, "I blame Larry Nasser, and I also blame an entire system that enabled and perpetrated his abuse." Biles said in her testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee, she said USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, knew that I was abused by their official team doctor long before I was ever made aware of their knowledge. Uh, a quote by the Olympic gymnast. Speaking through tears, Biles described feeling failed by the FBI and told lawmakers on the Senate Judiciary that she and other survivors of Nasser's abuse want to see the federal law enforcement officials involved in the botched investigation prosecuted to the fullest extent because they need to be held accountable. Biles also saying, "We suffered and continue to suffer because no one at the FBI, the USAG, or the USOPC did what was necessary to protect us. We have been failed." Biles was joined by gold medalists Michaela Maroney and Allie Reisman and gymnast Maggie Nichols, who was previously identified as Athlete A, the first gymnast to report Nasser's abuse to USA Gymnastics leadership in the summer of 2015. That documentary, of course, being on Netflix, called Athlete A, being a Netflix original. Maroney, who competed in the London Games in 2012, told senators that one night when she was 15 years old, she found the doctor on top of her while she was naked. One of many times she was abused, she said she thought she was going to die that evening. Maroney said after reporting being molested by Nasser, the agency initially delayed the investigation as others were abused and then, quote, made false claims about her account when agents eventually documented her report, something she was shocked and deeply disappointed to learn after reading the Inspector General's report. Maroney saying, "They chose to lie about what I said and protect a serial child molester rather than protect not only me but countless others." She added, "If they're not going to protect me, I want to know who are they trying to protect." Maroney also called on lawmakers to hold accountable everyone involved in the failures and cover-up of Nasser's abuse, particularly the FBI agents who committed obvious crimes in falsifying her statements. The Senate Judiciary is also hearing testimony from the FBI Director Christopher Wray, and Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who in a recent report found the FBI failed to, in a timely manner, interview victims who said that Nasser had molested them. The Inspector General's investigation was spurred by allegations that the FBI failed to promptly address complaints made in 2015 against Nasser. USA Gymnastics had conducted its own internal investigation, and then the organization's then president, Stephen Penny, reported the allegations to the FBI's field office in Indianapolis, but it took months before the Bureau opened a formal investigation. At least 40 girls and women said they were molested over a 14-month period, while the FBI was aware of other sexual abuse allegations involving Nasser. Officials at USA Gymnastics also contacted FBI officials in Los Angeles in May 2016 after 8 months of inactivity from agents in Indianapolis. The Inspector General's office found that despite the extraordinary serious nature of the claims against Nasser, FBI officials in Indianapolis did not respond with the utmost seriousness and urgency that the allegations deserved and required. When they did respond, the report said FBI officials made numerous and fundamental errors and also violated Bureau policies. Among the missteps was a failure to conduct any investigative activity until more than a month after a meeting with USA Gymnastics. Agents interviewed by phone one of three athletes, but never spoke with two other gymnasts, despite being told they were available to meet. The watchdog investigation also found that when the FBI's Indianapolis field office handling of the matter came under scrutiny, officials there did not take any responsibility for the missteps and gave incomplete and inaccurate information to internal FBI inquiries to make it look like they had been diligent in their investigation. The FBI rebuked its own employees who failed to act in the case and said it should not have happened. Also quoting the FBI saying the actions and inactions of certain FBI employees described in the report are inexcusable and a discredit to the organization. The agency said in a statement the FBI has taken affirmative steps to ensure and has confirmed that those responsible for misconduct and breach of trust no longer work FBI matters. Along with that statement came a third statement: we will take all necessary steps to ensure that the failures of employees are outlined in the report so that it does not happen again. The Inspector General interviewed an FBI supervisory special agent last September who said the original allegations reported by Penny and USA Gymnastics were very vague and who questioned Penny's credibility, describing him as kind of a snake oil salesman kind of guy. That special agent, also told investigators that the Indianapolis field office didn't appear to have jurisdiction to investigate because the alleged crimes did not take place in Indiana. The agent and FBI supervisor in the office said they told Penny to contact local law enforcement, a claim contradicted by Penny and the chairman of USA Gymnastics Board of Directors. The FBI said the supervisory special agent violated multiple policies and that the agency took immediate action when it learned that the agent did not properly document the sexual abuse complaints, had mishandled evidence, and failed to report abuse. The report also detailed that while the FBI was investigating the Nascar allegations, the head of the FBI's field office in Indianapolis, W.J. Abbott, was talking to Penny about getting a job with the Olympic Committee. He applied for the job but didn't get it and later retired from the FBI, according to the report. Abbott also lied to investigators from the Inspector General's office multiple times in an effort to, quote, minimize errors made by his office in handling the case, the report found. Nasser was ultimately charged in 2016 with federal child pornography offenses and sexual abuse charges in Michigan. He is now serving decades in prison after hundreds of girls and women said he sexually abused them under the guise of medical treatment when he worked for Michigan State and Indiana-based USA Gymnastics, which trained Olympians. That story, of course, by NBC Sports staff and the Associated Press. The powerful testimony by these women, when I saw it on Wednesday morning, shook me to my very core. And the people on the Senate Judiciary Committee, the senators on there, said that it was one of the few moments of bipartisanship there. And I certainly hope that personally, I tried to keep myself away from the story. I tried to cover it, not become a part of it, as we were taught in journalistic classes. But I personally hope that they actually will be cooperative throughout this entire thing. For the fact that multiple senators on the multiple conservative senators called out Simone Biles back when the Tokyo Games were still going on, saying that she was weak and that she did not deserve to serve the United States. I am only bringing that up as a way to keep those in power in check. The horrendous details that came out of their testimony, it shook me to my very core. And I hope that justice is found, not just for not just against Larry Nasser, but also against those in the FBI that did not report, and those in U.S. Gymnastics, or in USA Gymnastics and the U.S. OPC that initially tried to cover it up as a form of false claims. With that, we are going to go ahead and move on to Flames notes. Excuse me. I'm going to be giving a particular focus on my future alma mater, Liberty University, where there's a quarterback that's on the Heisman list and a team that is hungry for more than a cure bowl. That's going to be during all of the academic year and athletic seasons. Let's take a look at Flames notes. The Flames used a balanced offensive attack and stout defensive effort to secure a 21-13 road win over Troy Saturday night at Veterans Memorial Stadium. Liberty held Troy to 232 total offensive yards, including just 21 rushing yards on 24 carries. The Flames offense tallied 339 total yards in the win, evenly spreading its efforts with 47 carries for 185 rushing yards and completing 13 of 18 passing attempts for 154 yards. After going without a sack or turnover caused by last week's season opener against Campbell, Liberty's defensive stat sheet looked much different tonight. The Flames finished the game with 5 sacks and had their first turnover of the game, and of 2021 on a Duran Lowe interception during the third quarter. Malik Willis finished the night completing 13 of 18 passing attempts for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. Liberty's starting quarterback also led the Flames with 20 carries for 93 yards and his 16th rushing touchdown. Of course, at Liberty. TJ Green followed behind Willis, rushing 10 times for 56 yards. DJ Stubbs led the Flames in receptions at 4, and Demario Douglas led the team in receiving yards at 41, including his team-leading second touchdown grab of the season. The Flames' strong defensive push was paced by Story Jackson, who led the Flames with 10 tackles, 3 solo, and 7 assisted, including 1.5 sacks. Benny Chibuze had a career-high 6 tackles, including his first career sack for 8 yards. And of course, with that, we are going to go ahead and go into our opinion alert as our first one of the day and of this week. Liberty football's strong offensive push that has been powered ever since Malik Willis got there, and even before that, has made Liberty the envy of not only the FBS independents, but as well as some Group of 5 schools. Of course, I say that as we are going to get into a further story about the American Football Conference, of the American Athletic Conference losing 3 of their teams to the Big 12. That, of course, after Texas and Oklahoma, founding members of the Big 12, moved on to the SEC. but we'll get into that soon. Let's go ahead and head on with some this is later. Let's go ahead and take a look at the future game for Liberty University. As we talked about Taylor Heineke earlier, well, guess where the Flames are heading next? That's right, they are going to Norfolk for, of course, the ODU Monarch football game my mistake. Okay, we apologize for that. The script is wrong right here. ODU will be heading over to Lynchburg to face the Flames in Liberty's second home game of the season. Now, we have a little bit of a situation. Oh, there we go. The Monarchs will take on the Flames, carrying on their moving on to 2-0 at 6 p.m. tomorrow on ESPN 3. So let's go ahead and move on to some breaking news as we go ahead and say, welcome back, college football. Of course, the amazing thing about college football is the opportunity to bring fans back together, and we definitely saw that in both weeks 1 and 2. We also saw some really shocking games as we go ahead and recap the games from week 2. Okay, we have it now, so let's go ahead and take a look at week 2 of the 2021 college football season. Of course, we have a massive blowout in most of the games. We have, of course, Coastal taking out Kansas. Coastal, of course, ranked 16. The Chanticleers defeated Kansas 49-22. Head over to the site of the Iron Bowl this year. Auburn literally shut out Alabama State 62-0. The game that everyone was excited about the most was number 4 Oregon taking on number 9 Ohio State, which was in the college football playoff national championship game last year. Oregon defeated Ohio State 35-28. Proving that not all teams in the Pac-12 are as bad as you think. Of course, with that, we also take a look at number 11 Florida, see how they are doing without Kyle Trask. They're not exactly struggling as they defeated South Florida 42-20. Of course, Middle Tennessee took on number 15 Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech proving too much with their offensive game. And of course, Enter Sandman playing as they're coming in, just dominated it. They defeated Middle Tennessee 35-14. And for the game on NBC with retired NFL quarterback Drew Brees in the booth, Notre Dame standing at number 12 from the college football playoff semifinal, where they lost to Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Notre Dame defeated Toledo 32-29. Heading back to the SEC, Texas A&M almost had an upset against Colorado. Texas A&M ranked 7, defeated Colorado by 3. Final from that being 10-7. Of course, number 2 Georgia proving no hope for UAB, as the Bulldogs would nearly shut out UAB 56-7. Of course, UAB was in the Conference USA Conference Championship for football and didn't really go too much of anywhere after that. Cincinnati, now heading into the Big 12, defeated Murray State 42-7, and Cincinnati ranked 8th, of course, as Cincinnati just proved way too much for Murray State. We head over to Pennsylvania, where the Nittany Lions, a week before their infamous whiteout game, ranked at number 10, the Nittany Lions defeated Ball State 44-13 at home. And of course, one that kind of surprised a lot of people, Alabama versus Mercer. Of course, Alabama number 1 in preseason and number 1 currently, defeated Mercer 48-14. Mercer, everyone thought was going to get shut out, but proved to be somewhat of a challenge for Alabama, surprisingly, in that post-Mac Jones offense. The Hawkeyes and the Cyclones had a interstate battle where Iowa, standing at number 5, defeated 14 Iowa State 27-17. Staying in interstate battles, SC State took on Clemson, ranked at number 6. Clemson, the Tigers would defeat SC State 49-3. Heading over to the Big Ten, Wisconsin, ranked at 18th, defeated Eastern Michigan 34-7. Oh, pass it. And Appalachian State took on 24 Miami. Hurricanes almost had an upset alert against an unranked App State, but instead powered their way through to a 25-23 win. And the newest members of the SEC also had some things to deal with. Oklahoma, standing at number 3, defeated WCU 76-0 as Texas got upsetted. Or excuse me, not upsetted. Arkansas is just better than them. 40-21. Number 20 Arkansas defeated Texas. Good luck at the SEC, where you're probably not going to win a game at all. I couldn't keep that in. I'm sorry. Oh, boy. Of course, we're heading over to Ole Miss, recently changing their flag before football season, now sporting the magnolia flower on their state flag. Ole Miss defeated Austin PA 54-17. 17, of course, the ranking for Mississippi. Of course, we head over to North Carolina, where it's not an interstate battle, but it is a battle of the South, as Georgia State took on 21 UNC. UNC defeated Georgia State 59-17. And of course, going back to the Big Ten, Washington, Michigan. Washington suffering that upset against FCS Montana. We'll get into that shortly. 25 Michigan defeated Washington 31-10. And of course, one of the newest members of the Big 12 coming from our conference. I'm using that in quotes. 23, BYU defeated Utah 26-17. Finally finding a conference Power 5 home at last. And finally, the last game, the Sun Devils of Arizona State, ranked at 19, defeated University of Nevada in Las Vegas 37-10. I have no idea why in the script we couldn't just call them UNLV, but whatever. But with that, oh man, I'm still laughing at Texas. I gotta be honest about that one. Okay, let's move on to week 3, where Michigan will be at the first for big noon kickoff, which will be on Fox. 25 Michigan staying at home, taking on Northern Illinois. They'll be at 12 p.m. tomorrow. Also at the same time is Michigan State taking on the Hurricanes of Miami, ranked 24th. Coastal Carolina took out Buffalo the last time they played Buffalo. We'll see if they can do it again. They'll be also playing 12 p.m. tomorrow. And Virginia Tech, West Virginia, 15th-ranked Virginia Tech. They will be heading away from Lane, heading away from Blacksburg, traveling across the state line to take on the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Nebraska, and once again, the newest member of the SEC, will be taking each other on. 3rd-ranked Oklahoma versus Nebraska, 12 p.m. Also 12 p.m. Also a new member of the Big 12, which by soon will be probably the Big 14. Cincinnati will take on an unranked Indiana at also 12 p.m. New Mexico will take on Texas A&M. Texas A&M ranked 7th. And Purdue taking on number 12 Notre Dame, staying at the Cathedral of College Football, Notre Dame Stadium. That'll be at 2:30 p.m. on NBC. Kent State taking on 5th-ranked Iowa at 3 p.m. tomorrow. And, of course, the game that everyone at ESPN is excited for because of the new deal between ESPN and the SEC. Number 1 Alabama posts Mac Jones and defending national champions once again versus number 11 Florida, which had a chance of going to the college football playoff but failed. That's at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow. That's going to be on ABC. Georgia Tech will take on 6th-ranked Clemson, also at 3:30 p.m., as well as Tulsa taking on 9th-ranked Ohio State. And, of course, 4 p.m. will be number 20 Arkansas kicking the living, excuse me, can't say that word on air, but beating Texas senselessly. Number 20 Arkansas will take on Georgia Southern. Whoops. And we have an SEC battle. South Carolina taking on number 2 Georgia. They'll be at 7 p.m. I believe that one will be for Saturday Night Football on ABC. I am not entirely sure. They do not have it up here yet. Go search on our friends at Google NCAA football and find out the TV schedule. 22 Auburn and the whiteout game, Penn State Auburn. Excuse me, I believe that one is actually going to be Saturday Night Football, as the Iron Bowl participants will head over to Pennsylvania to take on the fully whited out Penn State Nittany Lions, standing at 10. Stony Brook will take on Oregon, that's ranked 4th, at 7:30 p.m. An unranked Virginia will take on 21 UNC, also at 7:30 tomorrow. And Tulane in their classic green wave, their classic green wave helmets will take on Ole Miss, standing at 17. And at 10:15 p.m. tomorrow, you got the Sun Devils standing at 19, taking on BYU at 10:15 p.m. tomorrow. BYU, of course, ranked 23. And of course, an unranked UNLV will be home for this one as they take on 14th ranked Iowa State. That one will be at 10:30 p.m. And 13 ranked UCLA will take on Fresno State tomorrow at 10:45. That will be also an interesting game to look at as well. Now, with these games, the number one ones I want to see is, of course, the Battle of Florida-Georgia line. Not a shout out to the country music duo there, but also the whiteout game that is always famous. It is always exciting to see. But of course, the one that most of Hampton Roads is going to be paying attention to is going to be two games that aren't up here. That one being the Battle of the Real HU, as Howard and Hampton will take each other on, and ODU Liberty taking each other on. Those games are definitely going to be interesting to see as we head over to now the NFL season, where we also have a preview and a review of week 1. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final scores for the longest, and I can't say it enough, the longest NFL season ever. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. The Cowboys and Buccaneers opened up the season with the banner game. That one surprisingly close than everyone was thinking, but the Buccaneers would win by a field goal, 31-29, which makes everyone basically thinking, is it bad Buccaneers or good Cowboys instead of the other way around? So Michael Irvin's pretty happy about that one. Now, of course, let's take a look at Sunday. We have Seahawks defeating the Colts 28-16. Texans defeated the Jaguars 37-21. Eagles. This one was interesting. I honestly was siding with the Falcons. I honestly was. But, and I am going to repeat someone that is close to me, it is literally one guy's fault that the Falcons did not blow out the Eagles. It is literally one guy's fault. But anyway, the Eagles stomped the Falcons 32-6. Steelers upsetted the Bills. We didn't think this game was going to be on the upset alert, especially after the fall of the shortcoming rise of the returning Pittsburgh dynasty kind of fell around late in the season. But Steelers beat the AFC champion, or the AFC championship participants 23-16. 49ers defeated the Lions 41-33. Vikings Bengals was an interesting game, but the Bengals would end it in a 27-24 win. Panthers took on the Jets. A little bit of payback for Sam Darnold, who was traded there during the offseason. Panthers defeated the Jets 19-14. Also, the Panthers stadium staff debuting mixed reality Panther tearing apart a Jets banner, which kind of gave a lot of people some nightmares. So that was interesting choice by the graphics department in Charlotte. But of course, we move on to where this one was also interesting. Cardinals, you got J.J. Watt, you got Chandler Jones. They are there, and they stopped King Henry. 38-13, that final. Browns, Chiefs. Browns proving something against the Chiefs. We know we made fun of them with their 0-16 season years ago, but I'm honestly speechless with them. Of course, they made the playoffs for the first time since 2005, last year with the Super Bowl card weekend, which they took on as well as defeated, moving on to the divisional. Dolphins, Patriots, boy. Okay, this one I am going to go into an opinion alert early. I'm not going to put the opinion alert graphic up there, but be warned, opinion alert. The Dolphins still suck. They still suck. The main thing with the Patriots were, yes, they had their offense back. Yes, they had yes, they had their defense back. Yes, they had a better offense. But Mac Jones was being held down. That was the thing that Belichick did with Brady, and he's doing with Jones. I get the kid's got to earn a place on the team, but you cut Cam Newton for this guy, and you're not even letting him do what he needs to do. It is dumb, it is shocking, and it is unbelievably questionable by Bill Belichick. Of course, enough with that rant. Broncos would defeat the Giants 27-13. Of course, Drew Lock proving... not Drew Lock? Who was it? What? Anyway, Packers Saints. Well, let's see how many people I can tick off with this one. Aaron Rodgers is throwing games to be cut from the Packers. Plain and simple. Either that or Jameis Winston, a guy who threw 30 interceptions with the team that just won the Super Bowl. Of course, that was under a different quarterback, but still, they had all the pieces. Beat Aaron Rodgers. It just... That was unbelievable. Saints led out by, once again, Jameis Winston defeated the Packers 38-3. We'll see if that Jeopardy gig is still open, by the way, Aaron. Bears, Rams, finally, Sunday Night Football is back. The Bears proven strong in the beginning, but the Rams, that defensive power, Aaron Donald, of course, in the top 10 of the NFL Top 100, proving too much for Andy Dalton and the Bears offense. That final score, 34-14. And this one, Monday Night Football, Monday Night Megacast. Raiders had their first home opener with Monday Night Football, and they had their second one, this time with fans. Of course, you got Earth, Wind, and Fire, Steve Aoki, and the MMA announcer, can't really remember his name, pretty much opening the game that was megacasted on ESPN and ABC. ESPN2 was not done by a commentating crew or anything. It was done by two brothers that pretty much just talked about football. Of course, you had Super Bowl champions both 2 times. One has a gold jacket and a bronze bust in Canton. That one being Peyton Manning, who was given a Ravens helmet by Eli that was 2 sizes too small for his head. And of course, you have 2-time Super Bowl champion Eli Manning, recently retired. That megacasted, proven, more people watched those two go at it than the actual telecast that was on ABC. That, of course, was funny. And Raiders and the Ravens. Raiders defeated the Ravens 33-27. We thought it was going to be a touchdown when the first overtime happened, when the first part of the overtime happened. And after a review, that one was not good, so they tried again. Once again, final from the overtime, 33-27. Of course, for those that watched the Monday Night Football megacast with Peyton and Eli, I'm still laughing at that one. That will, of course, be on with this coming Monday night as the Packers, which, once again, I will remind you, lost 38-3, taking on Jared Goff and the Lions. Just, wow. Let's go ahead and move on to week 2, scrolling down. Of course, Friday night's game, almost in overtime. Washington defeated the Giants by a field goal, expiring the clock. Raiders will take on the Steelers at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Not tomorrow, on Sunday. At the same time, Niners will face the Eagles. Texans take on the Browns. Broncos take on the Jaguars. Saints take on the Panthers. Speaking of which, with the Saints, we have breaking news involving them. Their awaited return to the now named Caesars Superdome in New Orleans has been marked for week 4 when they face the Giants. But for this week, they face the Panthers.
apologize for the constant technical difficulties we're having, but welcome back to the Sports Zone. We gotta put. Okay, there we go. Welcome back to the Sports Zone Unscripted. We're gonna talk about the news of the Big 12 expanding to the AAC teams. Move comes less than 2 months after Big 12 co-founders Oklahoma and Texas announced they would leave the SEC, or they would leave and join the SEC by July 1st, 2025, leaving the future of the remaining 8 schools in the Big 12 in a precarious position. The Big 12 officials moved quickly to make the league whole again, forming a subcommittee that concluded the most successful football schools in the American Athletic Conference, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, were the top choices, along with independent BYU. The Big 12 was waiting until this week when those schools formally indicated they wanted to join the conference. BYU will join the league for the 2023-2024 athletic season. In other words, next season, with Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby saying the other 3 programs will join no later than July 1st, 2024. But possibly earlier, Bowlesby noted that all 4 leagues have obligations to their existing leagues, although BYU is a football independent school, other programs participate in the West Coast Conference. Of course, with that, you can read more on that story from ESPN.com. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn into take a left turn, a little bit of a joke there, into the world of racing as we take a look at Kyle Larson's redemption tour. Kyle Larson has performed admirably on the track, being the driving force for Hendrick Motorsports' 269th win, as well as assisting 2020 Cup Series champion Chase Elliott, leading Chevrolet to 800 manufacturer wins. But we learned he has been trying to regain the trust of a community that works hand in hand with the racing community. This story by ESPN's Ryan McGee sheds light on that redemption tour. The oldest adage in auto racing is also the sport's greatest truth. Nothing solves a problem, more problems than you might think, like horsepower. As the 2021 Nascar playoffs began Sunday at Darlington, and the second race of the playoffs headed to Richmond, no one has more horsepower than Kyle Larson. 1 year ago, no one had bigger problems. It's hard to remember a time when any racer has the kind of season the 29-year-old Northern California has unleashed upon the American sports multiverse this year. He won the NASCAR regular season title. Yes, that's a thing. They even award a trophy for it. Via a Cup Series test, 5 wins, 14 top 5 finishes in 24 races, are nearly twice that of his closest rival in the championship standings, Mark Truex Jr. with 8, and his over 1,500 lap sled are also nearly doubled up on the mixed driver on the list, Denny Hamlin. Larson also won the June 13th NASCAR All-Star Race at Texas Motor Speedway, accomplished right in the middle of a 2-month stretch that produced 3 straight wins, 6 straight top 2 finishes, and 3 pole positions. In between day job gigs, he also won 2 dozen dirt track events, including trio trophies from the much revered Chili Bowl, Kings Royal, and Knoxville Nationals. On August 18th, he won the USAC EC39 on a dirt oval plowed into the High Holy Infield ground of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. IMS track honoring 18-time Indy 500 winner Roger Penske declared to the crowd, maybe I can find a 500 driver out here tonight. What do you think? You got a name for me? The last column written by legendary racing journalist Robin Miller before his untimely death last week was headlined, IndyCar must do whatever it takes to get Larson into the 2022 Indianapolis 500. And included this quote from Larson's childhood hero, dirt track turned NASCAR quoting demigod, Jeff Gordon, saying, he's Mario Andretti. I mean, who has ever had a season like this? And it's only half over. For those who make their living at the racetrack, Larson's story is strictly about all those wins and the chance at his first NASCAR championship. But to the outside world, dropping the name Kyle Larson isn't likely to start a conversation about racing, but rather one about race. No one knows that better than Larson himself. Just drop his name into a search bar or scroll through his social media mentions. For the rest of his life, there will always be some percentage of his identity tied to the evening of April 12th, 2020. Larson's saying, the job for me now is to make sure that when that does come up, it's a lesson for everyone. When you do something that hurts people, that shows how big a mistake can be, what do you do with that? I hope that when people remember me and what I did, that they also see what I have tried to do since then. What he did was, unfortunately, say the N-word. I said the N-word during an iRacing live telecast heard by thousands of sports fans watching while stuck at home during the first weeks of the COVID-19 pandemic. In less than 48 hours, Larson had lost his sponsors, his Cup Series ride at Chip Ganassi Racing, and was suspended indefinitely by NASCAR. In the 19 months since, the one they once called Young Money has been aged by every measure. He has called, faced, and talked with racing friends and colleagues of color, from members of his own pit crew to fellow Cup Series racer Bubba Wallace. He has apologized to young racing hopefuls who hail from all sorts of ethnicities, students of various programs who had looked up to Larson as the inspiration for their own racing dreams, a multiracial kid who graduated from NASCAR's fledgling diversity talent identification program. He also had to face his mother, Janet Larson, or Nimiata, is of Japanese descent, a first-generation American with parents who were held in the Tule Lake, California internment camp during World War II because they were Japanese Americans and considered threats to be more loyal to Japan than the U.S. None of them let Larson off the hook. Wallace refused to return his friend's panicked calls in the first hours after the slur was dropped. And when they did talk, the first thing he said, you used that word way too easily. His mother yelled, and then she cried. When he traveled to Philadelphia to visit the Urban Youth Racing School, a program he had started and worked with for years, a program he had worked with for years, even having students posing with him in Dover's Victory Lane. The school's husband and wife founders, Anthony and Michelle Martin, kept him there all day. He received unvarnished 2-hour lessons from Mrs. Martin on the history of race in America, and then met with each Urban Youth Racing School student individually to talk about what he did and what he was going to do next to correct the course. As part of his rehab to reinstatement plan designed by NASCAR, he was sent to mandatory sensitivity training. He hired a diversity coach, Doug Harris of the Kaleidoscope Group. Excuse me. And in addition to discussions with black racers such as Wallace, drag racer J.R. Todd, and Willie T. Ribbs. He also has worked with former Olympian Jackie Joyner Kersey and retired pro soccer player Tony Sana, who created a charity aimed at helping Minnesota heal after the killing of George Floyd. They all say the same about their first meetings with Larson, that they all wanted to look into his eyes and see if his spoken remorse and promised dedication to change was real and not simply an angle being played to get back to the big leagues. And they all say they liked what they saw. Larson says of the impact those continuing conversations have had on his life, him saying, I am just a more mature person now on and off the racetrack. That experience of growing up has made me better all around. I hope that it has made me a better person. I hope that it still is and that always does every day. But I know that it has made me a better racer. Now, that's a two-part answer. First, there's no greater motivator for any athlete than having what they love most taken away from them, no matter if that's caused by father time, injury, or a mistake. Second, Larson's inability to compete at America's highest racing level meant that he had suddenly nothing but time on his hands. So he filled that calendar by going back to his dirt track roots, full time running 96 bull ring events during his NASCAR suspension. Suddenly, the man who says he spent spring 2020 finding refuge in the anonymity of wearing a mask in public was back in a community that greeted him with open arms, the way anyone might find shelter from public shame by moving back in with family. The dirt track community didn't let him forget what he had done, but it also wanted to give him a chance to make amends. He raced at night after spending his days visiting, apologizing, and learning. He also won 46 of those 96 races. The longtime criticism of Larson as a racer was that he tended to lose long-range focus, whether over a 500-mile race or NASCAR's grueling 10-month season. By the time 2020 had entered autumn, focus no longer seemed to be an issue. He recalled Tuesday during the NASCAR playoffs media day in Darlington. I was in a position to chase a win in probably 80 races or more. I think putting yourself in a position like that, it made me a much mentally stronger driver these days and a much more experienced driver. Most importantly, Larson was also smiling again. Yes, horsepower can still fix most problems, but not entirely. As he continued to work toward his NASCAR reinstatement, he also started talks with Hendrick Motorsports, the team he had been rumored to one day drive for, replacing retiring seven-time NASCAR Cup Series champion and now IndyCar driver Jimmy Johnson. But that was before what happened on April 12th. Larson had long talks with Gordon about to become Rick Hendrick's official heir at the race team. He had even longer chats with Rick Hendrick himself, who was having his own talks with potential sponsors and especially Chevrolet, which had quickly cut ties with Larson after the racial slur drop. Hendrick saying earlier this summer, what impressed me about Kyle was the things he was going to do above and beyond what he was asked to do by NASCAR, traveling around the country on his own to educate himself. The winningest owner in NASCAR history needed the same affirmation sought by those Larson had jetted around the nation to meet with. Hendrick saying also saying, I need to see in his eyes and in his heart and know he was really sincere. Not just this is what I have to do to race in NASCAR again. It had to be what he wasn't afraid to tell everybody. Oh, I know what that was. That he had done a terrible thing. That he was sorry. He was going to make it right. Kyle told me that he is going to carry this on and build on as time goes on. He has promised me that he is never going to let this stop, and I believe him. Hendrick hired him, put his own sponsorship on the car through his car dealerships as a show of support, and agreed to let Larson do all the short track racing he wanted. He has already been signed to an extension through 2023. Hendrick has also helped Larson beef up his charitable foundation with a bolstered emphasis on supporting diversity and inclusion efforts. Now they are favorites to win a NASCAR Cup Series title together. Hendrick's 14th championship and Larson's first would already qualify as significant auto racing history. They both hope it goes further than that. Hendrick saying last month, Kyle Larson's success shows people that you can make a mistake, a terrible mistake. You can also recover. More importantly than that, you can grow as a person and as a human being. And you can help other people grow too. He has done a lot of work and he has a lot of work to do. But he's dedicated to doing it. I believe that. And so does Larson. Larson saying, it's been a crazy couple of years, but I am thankful that I am in the opportunity now that I'm in now. Larson came in second at Darlington and fifth in Richmond for the NASCAR playoffs, advancing to the round of 12, along with two-time Daytona 500 winner Denny Hamlin following his win at Darlington. The third race of the playoffs will head to Bristol Motor Speedway for some short track racing at the last great Coliseum. Let's go ahead and move on to the breaking news of the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series schedule finally being unveiled. The 2022 NASCAR Cup Series schedule season will start with the Clash on February 6th of the new year. That Clash not being at Daytona this time. This time instead at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. That's right, the first venue of the Super Bowl, and as well as the venue for all Olympics that were in LA, including the upcoming 2028 one for opening ceremonies, and some athletic events will undergo a asphalt makeover as it prepares to be the newest short track racing home of NASCAR. Follow that is the duel at Daytona, and then the Great American Race duel will be on the 17th of the same month, followed by the 500 on the 20th. Auto Club will follow that 7 days later, which will follow that in Las Vegas in March, and the first race of Phoenix on March 13th, and Atlanta on Sunday. Also in there is that Also in that is that for the first time, Homestead Miami will be heading back to the playoff format. And of course, more of Bristol Dirt. But that is not the only thing. You look at June 5th, the Worldwide Technology Raceway is going to be the first ever time NASCAR will race at a unmarked, well, not an unmarked, but a not NASCAR racetrack. The the Worldwide Technology Raceway, or the WWT Raceway, is in Illinois. So that, it looks like, will replace Chicagoland, which is undergoing maintenance during that time. Also in the schedule, 2 Atlanta races in the regular season. And finally, a return to the Music City in Nashville, Tennessee. That is right, Nashville Super Speedway will be once again home to a Cup Series race. Now, of course, with that, let's go ahead and move on to basically the most shocking news in college football history. Well, not college football history, but it's